Hello. I wanted to start reading from a very special book I love so much. My English is not the best, but I would love to read from the book to everyone. So, the basic of the cosmic law: discover and practice your inner divinity. Illustrated step-by-step guide, Kindle edition. So I already own this book. It cost only $9.99, and if I click read now, I should open up here. Yes. So yeah, this is on page 465. I think I go to the end here. I mean the start. And take it from here. So the basic of the cosmic law, it's a very special book because it brings out it explains the teachings from the Ascended Masters in a very understandable way, and it's very compact. All these teachings, it's compressed kind of in one book, because a lot of these teachings you have to get it from many different sources. So everything is stuck into one book, but this is just a scratch of the surface. At the same time, it's very informative, a book. So a little bit about the start here. Acknowledgements. Although these pages are written by me, Svetlana Toukova, I am but a link in the chain of transmission of divine knowledge. So Svetlana is a very she has a very much humility over the teachings. She don't want to claim that she is a lot of knowledge. She's acknowledging her. I don't get the word. She's humility to the teachings. So I am grateful to the ascended beings who have provided the teachings on the divine nature of man throughout the ages. I am grateful to the messengers Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet who delivered the teachings of the Ascended Masters in this age. And on those works this book is based. So that's a very special book. I would like to thank my mother Nina Toukova, who inspired this work and supported me in the course of the last several years while I was working on the book. Without her "you can do it," I would not have been able to accomplish such a massive project. I am especially indebted to William Espino, a faithful devotee of Archangel Michael, who reviewed and helped edit the book. It has been a great privilege and a great pleasure to work with such a wonderful team. The challenges mankind faces in the 21st century are unprecedented, and you can say that again, because what we experience now is beyond belief. What's going on with the economy going down, environment heavily polluted, terrorism threatening the world, and military confrontation progressing, the situation is obviously going out of control, and we people of Earth who have created this situation don't seem to be able to copy with it. Why? We have a certain understanding of who we are, and we proceed from this understanding in all that we do, think and feel. Unfortunately, our understanding is wrong. No wonder that the results of our deeds, thoughts and feelings are wrong as well. And this will not change unless the old paradigm is changed. Our entire perspective on ourselves must be turned around. But the popular New Age slogans such as "love each other" or "you are divine" won't suffice. What we need is a precise, positive knowledge of what our true origin and nature is, how we got where we are now, and how we can return to our original divine state, where we can exercise our lawful right for abundance, peace, and harmony in all spheres of personal and social life. That's a mouthful, and she is so right. The book you are about to open is an attempt to summarize the teaching that provides the knowledge in question. Very wise words. We see now this book was written before COVID, so she is right on the spot. We see here the contents. It's a lot of topics here. The key to prosperity is the start. She has arranged everything so it's supposed for the reader to be able to understand, to get in the flow of understanding, so it's easier to get the knowledge. And there is a lot of chapters. And be surprised, there is a lot of images that is explaining the teachings. So, introduction, the key to prosperity. All people strive for prosperity. Yeah, that's logical. Prosperity in the larger sense is abundance in all spheres of life. We desire health, wealth, success in our endeavors, and happiness in private life. These desires are lawful, for all children of God have the right to claim the abundance originally intended for them by the Creator. Unfortunately, this abundance does not always manifest fully in our lives. Some suffer from chronic shortage of money. Some lose interest in life because of debilitating diseases. Some, unable to retain their family and loved ones, fall into despair. We each have our own problems, and we often don't understand why these problems occur in our lives. At times, they strike us like a bolt from the blues. We ask, why? Particularly when we feel we have done nothing wrong. We feel we deserve a better lot, and century after century, millennium after millennium, the same question echoed down the corridor of history. Oh my Lord, why? People have always suspected that the answer can be found somewhere beyond the boundaries of the visible material world. And they tried to find this answer in the wisdom of ancient teachings. Well, it is there indeed, but the way to it is often obscured and blocked by the obstacles created by human consciousness. Throughout the centuries, God has sent to earth his messengers, such as Jesus Christ, Gautama Buddha, Confucius, Muhammad, and a lot more. Each of them, in his turn, expressed universal law in their original purity, and these laws form the base of a certain religion. The goal was to provide people on earth with knowledge that would help them attune their lives without universal principle, find harmony within themselves, come into harmony with the universe, and thereby attain that abundant in all aspects life that had always been the objects of their desire. This pure knowledge contained within itself the answers to all questions, but unfortunately, it lost its original purity very quickly. The human consciousness tends to measure all things by the measure of its own understanding, which is rationalistic and earthly. In this process of such adjustment, the universal concepts were distorted until they ultimately lost their original sacred meaning. The live spirit became the dead letter, and its miraculous transfiguring power was lost. The formal teachings of the formal religions could not give answers to the seekers' questions. People of earth forgot that all true spiritual teachings come from the same source and therefore are identical in their inner essence. Each one claimed his religion to be the only true religion, and followers of other religions were labeled pagans or heretics or infidels. However, life on earth, following the rhythm of cosmos, passes through certain cycles. The 20th century came to its end, and together with it ended the Age of Pisces, the epoch that started with Jesus coming and lasted for 2000 years. Earth entered the Age of Aquarius, which has the potential to be the golden age for the planet and all thereon. The Age of Aquarius presents to each one of us and to mankind as a whole wonderful opportunity never seen before. It is up to us to make use of the knowledge that is released to us once again. Now that is very interesting. The Aquarian Age. Technology will advance very, very fast, and now we are just in the beginning in the Aquarian Age. Yesterday I just saw a documentary about artificial intelligence that is capable of finding out things that is impossible to humans, calculating, finding out things with our bodies that is impossible for humans to understand, but artificial AI, artificial intelligence, have the ability to advance very, very fast. Just a side note. And also there is a lot of spirituality in the Aquarian Age that will also be able to advance parallel to technology. It's very, very interesting to watch. During the period of transition at the end of the Age of Pisces and the beginning of Aquarius, mankind has been given a universal teaching providing man with a clear understanding of his own nature and the nature of the world in which he lives. This teachings explains with precision where the disharmony causing problem in our lives comes from, and it teaches concretely what we should do in order to remove this disharmony. Mathematically exactness is combined in it with the infinite creativity of spirit. It is universal indeed, for it gathers together and reduces to a common denominator the fragments of the true knowledge scattered over the numberless pages of numberless books, and provides a man with a true understanding of his own true nature. It supplies each one with knowledge of his own forces and with an understanding of his calling, not only in his present life, but also in his life in eternity. In eternity, that's an interesting choice of word. This teaching, given through the messenger, individuals especially trained to receive the release, the divine knowledge, will be the subject of our consideration on the following pages. The information given to mankind is massive, and its greater part has not been even published yet. The present notes are meant to be the leading thread which will help you to not get lost in a sea of information, and which will help you find that which you personally need. We will move from one theme to another, step by step. Anyone getting boost pumps? Chapter 2. The Circle of the One. The only axiom we need to accept is the existence of God. The rest will be revealed to anyone who will open his consciousness to his light and his wisdom. It is hardly possible that someone in the beginning of the 21st century would describe God as an anthropomorphic being, seated on a cloud and sending to his creation now thunderbolts of terrible anger and then merciful currents of infinite grace. We need to tap into a deeper understanding if we are to grasp not the outer allegory, but the inner sense. The one, the undivided, the unconditional, the absolute God and the absolute beginning of all things. A Christian calls him the Almighty Creator. A Hindu knows him as a Brahman. A Jewish mystic name him Ein Sof. The names are different, but the meanings is the same. The absolute source of being, the beginning of all things, the absolute good and absolute truth. If we now turn to terminology that is more familiar to the contemporary ear, we will say that God is a primordial universal source of energy, the giver of all, for ultimately we ourselves and all our surroundings are but different modifications of the divine energy. All Western theologians of all epochs faced the same problem. Since the number of the attributes of God is infinite, we will never be able to list them all, and therefore we will never be able to formulate an exhaustive definition of God. As a matter of fact, it is impossible to define something that is infinite, for any definition is making finite. The followers of the Eastern religions have always been in a better position, as their approach is based on intuitive comprehensions rather than rational reasoning. However, God is able to adjust to any way of thinking, and he gave to Western man that which he needed, the name that constitutes the exhaustive definition of the Godhead. When Moses asked God to reveal his name so that the prophet could convey it to the people, God answered, "I am that I am." The left part of this phrase is the same as the right one, or, in terms of formal logic, the subject and the predicate are identical. This is the only way to express the infinite in the frames of rational thinking and language. The definition, the name of God, I am that I am, or in short form, I am, is crucial for man's understanding of his real nature, and it will play the key role in our further discourse. The divine source in its purest essence is traditionally represented by a circle. It is the beginning of the world, the pure energy, light in its limitless intensity and original purity. This unconditioned beginning of all, the center of the purest fire of the One, is called the white fire core of being. The white fire core of being. Very interesting. So she has illustrated very nicely here with the picture. The white fire core of being. Chapter 3. Now I will read this chapter, and I will continue maybe tomorrow. After his image and likeness. God created man in his own image and likeness. What does that mean? It is obvious that the beautiful frescoes by Michelangelo are purely allegorical, and we need to get a deeper understanding. Returning to our circle of the One, we see that it polarizes, forming two antipodes. A positive 1, alpha, corresponding to the sphere of spirit, and a negative one, omega, corresponding to the sphere of matter. Two spheres occur simultaneously within the One. And she is illustrating very nicely here. Alpha, omega. Nice. As the sacred circle of being divides into two polarities, the upper sphere, which is positive and referred to as the spirit, the heaven and the creator, cause, and the lower sphere, that is negative and referred to as matter, earth, and creation effect. There is a continual interchange of energy between the two spheres in the figure 8 flow. In our diagram, the active impulse from alpha is shown by a solid line, and the return flow from omega is shown by a dotted line. I was trying to zoom here. You see the return here is dotted, and here is the plain line here. The upper sphere, which is positive and referred to as the spirit, the heaven and the creator cause, and the lower spirit that is negative, referred to as matter. Yes. Now we have an opportunity to see once again that the concept of different religions that are perceived by the common consciousness as contradictory to each other are absolutely identical in their inner sense and differ only in the way they are expressed. The original impulse coming from alpha as an active giver is the beginning, and the return of energy from omega is a passive receiver, is the ending. This is exactly what the scripture says. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, said the Lord, which is and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty. So this is the Christian aspect of the concept in question. Anyone getting goosebumps here about this? On the other hand, it is evident that our diagram is a representation of the Tai Chi, which is one of the basic concepts of all Eastern philosophies, symbolizing the interaction of the masculine yang that correspond to the spirit sphere, and the feminine yin corresponding to the sphere of matter. Thus we see that the outer differences that seem to be insurmountable to the human consciousness are indeed caused by the limitation of this very consciousness and disappear completely when come in touch with the light of the divine wisdom. But let us return to the creation of man. In the process of creation, the one becomes the many. He creates numerous copies of himself. His individualized manifestations, known as divine monads. Each monad is, in its turn, polarizes within itself, forming the sphere of alpha spirit and omega matter. The latter correspond with the human soul. When a man says, I, he usually means his physical body plus the thoughts and feelings that he perceives as his own. Such an approach misses the main point, the awareness of the presence of God that is individualized for each soul and constitutes an integral part of each one's being, and the understanding of the fact that it is this presence of God that is the beginning and the ending of our existence, both on earth and on other spheres. It is the presence of God whose name is I Am, or the I Am presence. I am that I am. interesting. So the upper part of the figure 8 corresponds to the I am presence, representing the sphere of spirit, and the lower part corresponds to the human soul evolving in the plane of matter. And so we see that according to the divine plan, each of us in no way a particle of helpless flesh lost in the vast oceans of time and space, but is a great being having at his or her disposal the infinite energy of God focused in his individualized presence given to each of his children. The interchange of energies between the upper and the lower spheres is shown in more detail in the diagram on the left. The spiral flow of energy descending from alpha is represented by the violet line, and the returning ascent from omega is represented by the aquamarine line. The third picture shows them together as a whole, for the divine energies are not subject to the laws of time and space, and they move at speed incomprehensible for the infinite consciousness from plus to minus and from minus to plus, manifesting the unity of God and his creation, as above, so below. And man manifests below the fullness of the perfection of the Godhead above. But we understand, of course, that this is an ideal description of the ideal process as it was in the past and as it has to become in the future. But that which we see on the present stage of the mankind's evolution is quite different from the ideal regime. So what is the reason? Where do wars, poverty, hatred, illness, and natural calamities come from? And how do they match the perfect design conceived by the Creator in the beginning? So we will try to read chapter 4 later. It is very, very interesting reading. I look forward to read